Okay, ready. So ladies, our topic for today's, we're going to look at systems of production and responses to oppression. So that is what we're doing. Now, what do we mean by systems of production? Anyone? When you hear the term systems of production, what comes to mind? Or the word production, what comes to mind?
Sir,
Go ahead for me, Elliot.
I think of the economy and the system of labor that has to be used or whatever allows for things to be made so that they can then be sold so that a profit can be made from that.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. All right. So you're correct, Kristen. So when we talk about systems of production, the process of providing goods and food for domestic and use and trade. So anything that the labor, the process that goes into providing goods and food either for domestic use locally by yourself at your home in your own country, or for trade, that is what we mean by systems of production. So Elliot, you are very correct. Now, the first thing is that there are several systems of production that have been used in the Caribbean. We have slash and burn that was used by the indigenous peoples, Encomienda, African slavery, plantation system, indentureship. So all of these are various ways in which people within the Caribbean space have used these systems here to produce food for local consumption or goods, and also for trade. For example, slash and burn. Most of us know what is slash and burn because we would have looked at it. Anyone? Anyway, it's right here. So we know it's an agricultural technique. And if you look at the picture right here, it is what the clearing of the land by burning trees and other types of vegetation. So it was something that was used primarily by the indigenous people, but it continues to be used today. Now, what are some of the pros and cons of slash and burn? Your own experience when it comes to slash and burn. Go ahead, Jackson.
Sir, even though it regenerates the nutrients in the soil, it also causes a lot of environmental deterioration in terms of the greenhouse effect, because the burning of trees, the combustion, leads to more carbon dioxide being emitted into the atmosphere, which heats up the globe and leads to global warming. And also, when you burn trees, you lessen the amount of you basically increase the amount of oxygen in the atmosphere, because the trees can't absorb the carbon dioxide, because they aren't there.
Very good, excellent. Shirley? Fletcher?
Oh, yes, sir.
Which one is Shirley? You're up or Fletcher? Both hands are up. Shirley, you still want to make a point?
I'm here. Sir. Yes, sir.
All right, make a point.
Yes, oh, I was saying that a few times when
You're breaking up. I didn't hear the last part.
Is more trees on land, more trees are burnt than they need to be. So the fires get
Yes, the fire gets out of control. Fletcher?
Yes, sir. It also decreases soil fertility over time.
Mm-hmm.
And it can cause acid rain.
Yes, tell us a little about the acid rain.
Well, sir, when the smoke and other particles from the fire goes up into the atmosphere, um, some chemical reactions occur and then acid rain is formed.
All right, very good. And also that is very damaging to the soil, especially to the hillside, because it can also lead to landslide like what we are seeing now. Quite a lot of landslide going on in Jamaica. So that those are some of the pros and some of the cons. Well, most of you talk about some of the cons. One of the pro of slash and burn, while it provides some form of fertilizer for those who are using it, the truth is that it also get rid of the pests like the rats and the snakes within the field. So if most of us who are familiar with rural areas, you find that there's a lot of different rat basically live in the bushes, right? A lot of rats. And so when you burn, you can get rid of them so you can use the space. And you don't want rat and those things in your garden. That is one of the pros of using. One of the con, growing up, I could not deal with when they used to do the slash and burn, especially if you live in Portmore, Spanish Town side. When I believe Bernard Lodge, when it was up in operation, they used to burn the canes before, to clear the land and all of these different stuff, right? And you have your clothes on the line, and when you look, a lot of these black stuff just coming down on your clothes. Worse, if you wash your white clothes, that can put you. Repeat.
This clothes smell like smoke.
And the clothes smells like smoke. Very good. That is so true, like smoke. And so when you look, that is not good. And if you have persons who are asthmatic or have any form of respiratory illness, it can cause some serious health problem. The truth is that slash and burn is very popular still in the Caribbean, especially in the rural areas. I live in Kingston and I realize that it might be not slash and burn, they're slash and burning, but I don't know why Jamaican people love to burn garbage. Every minute a neighbor burning garbage. Where I used to live before in Halfway Tree, it was a little different. So they would burn, but it was mostly like from the plazas that were close by. But by the time, now where I am living, which is up by Constant Springs side, every day the people burn garbage every single day. So just imagine if you live close by to a farm that they use slash and burn as a method, or you live in the rural area that they use slash and burn, it is not good.
Sir, they do that. They do that a lot nearby. They do that a lot nearby me. They plant carrots on the hill across from me.
Yeah.
And every weeks or so, they're doing the slash and burn, and the fire gets away from them, and the whole hill is on fire.
Yes, it happens. That is also a con. That is also a con. Go ahead.
I was saying it burns for weeks, sir, because the fire truck can't go over there, so they have to just make it wait out.
That is so true, because I remember at my parents' house in rural Jamaica, somebody was doing the slash and burn method, and the fire get out of hand, it come on our land, and it was going into the cane field to destroy the man's cane. And it is we call it now, that is not good. The fire truck came because it was like, it's a flat piece of land. It's an elevated area, but it's flat. I don't know. I don't know the geographical term, like a plateau type of thing. And so the fire truck came and was able to out it. But there are areas like what you're saying, some rural areas in, I'm not even sure if you're rural, but in some areas in Jamaica, maybe so on a hill or somewhere like that, you have that issue. You have that issue where it is very difficult for the fire truck to get on a particular area, and it can cause serious problems to livestock, to houses, people's property, and it is not a good method. The government is trying its best governments across the Caribbean trying to eliminate the use of this method, right? Our next, go ahead.
Cornelia has been kicked out of the class because of her Wi-Fi, so.
All right, no problem. Understand. She look like she's here, no? All right, the recording is here. Thank God for the recording. Next, ladies, the Encomienda system. So we're looking at the end. So the first system of production was slash and burn. And we know slash and burn still have its negative effect on our society today. As a system of production is still popular use in the Caribbean today. Our next system of production is the Encomienda system. So when the Spanish came in 1492, they established settlements in the Caribbean, and by the time they established settlements in the Caribbean, Portugal, which was their fellow Catholic nation, because both Spain and Portugal were Catholics, both of them, and they were also rival nations. They are very close to each other geographically in Europe. And Portugal wanted a piece of the pie. And Spain said, no, but I was the one who discovered, in quotation, the Americas. And so Portugal went and complained to the Pope, because both nations are Catholics. And the Pope said, all right, let's make an agreement. And so they signed the Treaty of Tordesillas in 1494. And this was that the Pope said, I will divide the Western Hemisphere into two halves. So one, Spain, you will take this side, which is the west of the red line. And Portugal will take this part. You see the only little piece they give Portugal? Maybe Portugal wasn't a very faithful Catholic country. This is not fair. They gave Portugal this little piece, which is today modern day Brazil. So we know for sure that all of this area, it was divided. And please note the Treaty of Tordesillas 1492, it can come under multiple choice exam, and it had in the past. So once they settled, the Spaniards settled, the Spanish settled in the Americas, they're going to establish a system that is called the Encomienda system. Before they started the Encomienda, they had a system that is called repartimiento, where they gave plots of land to the Spanish. So each Spanish receive a plot of land. And so you're supposed to build on it, grow food on it, have the livestock on it. That was your part, your repartimiento, the system of division of the land for the Spanish. Now, the person who received the land was called an encomendero. and they implement the system which is Encomienda. Now, what was the Encomienda system? They came to the Americas, they saw the indigenous people, they said to the indigenous people, listen, this is our little plan. You pay me tributes in the form of gold, silver, crops. You provide food supply for us. You show us where the water supply is located. You provide the labor, right? So you're going to provide labor in the fields and in the mines. And in return, I'm going to give you protection. You give me all those tributes, work for me, and I'm going to provide for you protection. I'm going to convert you to Christianity, Roman Catholicism, and I'm going to also provide for you food and clothing and shelter. So that's what the Spaniards said that they're going to give to the indigenous people. So they had that system. In reality, ladies, there's no way under the heavens that you could come to my land, you distribute my land among yourself, and then you want to give us protection. Protect us from what? Anyone? What are they want? What they want protection? Why the Spaniards want to protect them? From who? From their fellow Europeans? Who?
No clue, sir.
Go ahead.
From the Europeans.
From the Europeans? Go ahead, Jackson.
Sir, they were basically just saying that so that they would work for them. Like, they didn't really need any protection from anyone. Like, when the Spanish came, they just told them that they would give them protection, and I guess protection from themselves also in a sort of way, because they saw them as savages that worshipped idols and they were heathens. So in some kind of way, they were like protecting them from themselves, as well as other Europeans, I guess, who wanted to come and dominate the space. But in practice, the system was just enslavement.
Enslavement. Some historians argued that it was a system of enslavement. And so the truth is that if you notice protection, that is very flawed. But we know for sure that that was the agreement that they gave. But in fact, we know that the system was very oppressive. Very, 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 very oppressive. It was the Europeans imposed their culture on the indigenous people. They imposed their language, their food, their religion. Some societies, it led to the genocide of some groups. For example, on the island of Hispaniola, over 2 million persons, Taínos actually died on the island of Hispaniola. There are diseases that would have killed a lot of them. Smallpox, malaria, syphilis, these are diseases that came from Europe, and the indigenous people had no immunity to these diseases. So guess what? A lot of them died. In fact, a historian by the name of Alfred Crosby argued that diseases was a reason that led to the
Sir, I think it was the conquest of South America by Pizarro.
Yes, that is also in the Aztecs Empire. And so he argues, you're correct, he argues and he said that diseases was one of the main reasons that led to the decimation of the indigenous people. Some other historians disagree and said, no, it wasn't diseases, it's because of the superior weaponry that would have caused the indigenous people to basically have some level of genocide. And I say some level of genocide because you still have indigenous people remaining today in the Caribbean space. They also went about and they destruction of their property, the indigenous property. It was oppressive. Encomienda was oppressive. Destruction of their property because they took their, we call it now, they destroy their homes, they destroy their lands that they were planting, their trees, all of these different stuff. Complete decimation of the indigenous people. Some of the females were raped or had sexual relations with some of the females. I'm not even sure, well, we don't know if males were actually sodomized. We don't know that. But we don't know if in the Caribbean if that happened. But in literatures from Central America, and in places like Brazil and Venezuela and those places that encomienda was practiced, I shouldn't say Brazil, because Brazil had some level of encomienda, but not similar to the Spanish type. But in places like in Central America, Mexico and those areas, there are literatures out there that show that the white Spaniards would have sodomized the males also. So we know for sure that some of them would have been raped and they had sexual relations. They had widespread abuse. For example, let us look at the widespread abuse and overwork. In the three first places that they would have settled would have been Hispaniola, Cuba, Jamaica. They send them to Jamaica. They use the indigenous people in these territories to search for gold, to mine for gold. And all they are mining for gold, especially in the island of Jamaica, up to this day, we can't find any gold. And they have the indigenous people there mining for gold, and they can't find any gold. Same thing in places like Cuba and Hispaniola. They found small deposits of gold, but it was very small. And they have them overworking them in search for gold. These people have never done any farmer mining. I remember they wouldn't have that all the tools to make the process much easier. So you can imagine mining those rocks, how tedious and hard that would have been. They received quite a lot of punishment when they didn't meet their demand. And also the Europeans, the Spaniards, would have played a game with the indigenous people where they would have killed them in the process of the game. So we know that for sure, without a doubt, we know that the system was oppressive. If we go back to our topic, the topic said systems of production and responses to oppression. So the first thing we know was that encomienda was a system of production. We identified that it was oppressive. How it was oppressive. Now, how did the indigenous people responded to oppression? Anyone? How they responded to the encomienda system? They just sit down and say, all right, turn me into your slave. Yes, Jackson.
Well, some historians say that, well, Taínos, we know that they were very gentle, they weren't very warlike, but in some instances, they would fight back. The Spanish didn't get to enslave the Kalinagos because the Kalinagos are already warlike, so they would like chase them out of their territories. For Central America and South America, you had a lot of wars. So I think for the Aztecs, when Hernan Cortes came to take over, they had something called El Noche Triste, like the sad night or something like that. And it was when basically the Aztecs lost the fight to the Spaniards based on things like diseases killing a lot of them, because I believe when Cortes came to Central America, to Mexico, to the Yucatan Peninsula, I believe when Cortes came to the Yucatan Peninsula, there were like millions of them, but because they didn't have any vaccines to the diseases or resistance, a lot of them died, and also the superior weaponry that they had. And I think it was the same thing with Pizarro when he went to take over the Incan Empire. Although the ones in Central America and South America did fight back, but the Tainos, they did, but not as much.
Very good. Excellent. Elliot?
Yes, sir. To add to what Deidre said, the Tainos, since they weren't known for their fighting, methods that they'd use included like infanticide, suicide. Some of them would run away. And by the time the Africans were brought to the Caribbean, there's evidence to suggest that there were relations between the indigenous people who had run away from the plantation and Maroons who had run away from the plantation. Other things that they do, they poison the Spaniards because they knew different foods that were poisonous. They knew poisonous parts of, they knew how to put concoctions together to poison the Spaniards, that kind of thing. Sometimes they just wouldn't work at all. They'd not strike, but they just wouldn't work, or they'd pretend as though they couldn't manage so that they wouldn't have to continue working for the Spaniards.
Yes, excellent, excellent, very good. Is that Kasana? I think that's the name.
Sorry, Kristen was talking a while ago, but it's Kisana.
All right. You have something, your hand was up. What's your point?
No, sir, Kristen already said it with the infanticide and suicide and.
All right, yeah. Excellent. All right, excellent point, ladies. So we know for sure that they would have responded and, oh, where am I? Yes. So they resisted. As you mentioned, one of the first ways in which they would have resisted was that they ran away. They were the first Maroons in the Caribbean. They were the ones who ran away to the mountains, and they were there for quite a long time till other Africans actually. In fact, in Jamaica, the first Maroons were the Tainos. And when the Spaniards had some Africans living in Jamaica, just a small number of them. And once the English came to capture Jamaica from the Spaniards, those Africans went up into the mountains and lived with the Maroons there. So they would have formed some of the first band of Maroons. So we know for sure that that is one way in which they responded. We know for sure also that many fought battles. And one example is on the island of Hispaniola, where the Spaniards they destroyed forts in 1493, and they would have killed, yes, the Tainos. The Tainos killed every single Spaniard that was there. And also, they would have destroyed the fort. So that is another example of how they would have responded. Some commit suicide, and some females would have committed infanticide. Somebody can explain infanticide for us?
Sir, it's the killing of infants and sometimes unborn children because the mothers wouldn't want their kids to grow up in such a system where they're enslaved.
Very good. Excellent. So we have for sure the infanticide. Now, ladies, the system came to an end in 1720, the Encomienda, in which two Catholic priests, they recognized and reported to the Spanish government that, listen, the system is very bad. The indigenous people is not enduring under the system, and so guess what? Let us use African instead of Indian. Right? So in 1720, the Spanish abolished the system of Encomienda, and they introduced in a very large scale of labor the use of Africans instead of the Indians. What's your take on that? What's your take on the use of Africans instead of Indians? Ruth and Chambers, you're here?
Yes, sir.
What's your take on that? You think it was a wise decision?
Can you please repeat, sir?
The use of Africans instead of Indians. You think the recommendation was a worthwhile recommendation?
I'm not sure, sir.
No form of empathy? Anyone else? Miller?
Sorry, sir, I didn't hear what was going on for a while because my internet keeps chipping and the audio is not clear.
All right. Anyone else? Richardson?
Sir, personally, because, my ancestors and stuff, I wouldn't say that it's a great idea. But from their point of view, they have some people that they want to work for them, right? And obviously the people that they have now aren't doing the job right. So they're going to, observe what's going on and say, this is not working out. We need to find something else. So from their point of view, they're saying they're getting better work. But because I know my ancestors and, Africans and the whole slavery thing, I wouldn't say it's the best idea. But for them to improve their system, it would have been a good thing for them. That's
all right. Very good. Very good answer. All right, ladies. So any comments? Any question? No comments, no question. We meet tomorrow where we're going to look at the plantation system. And on Monday, again, we're looking at slavery and also the indentured system. All right, ladies, enjoy the rest of the afternoon.
Thank you, sir.
Bye, sir. Same to you.